What was supposed to be the happiest weekend of their lives turned into a nightmare no one ever imagined. Just 23 hours after a glamorous wedding, John made a decision that shocked his family, his friends, and everyone who later heard the story. A single social media post, long buried in the past, suddenly resurfaced and spread like wildfire. It dragged his new wife, Amaka, into public judgment and slowly tore apart a marriage that was not even 1 day old. As screenshots moved from phone to phone, whispers grew louder. Pressure came from every direction. Love began to fight pride. Forgiveness struggled against shame. And one question hung heavily in the air. Should the past remain in the past, or could it destroy the present? What happened behind closed doors that day would later make many people question love, trust, and the dangerous power of social media. The wedding reception hall was still glowing with beauty. White and gold decorations covered every corner. Soft music played in the background. Guests were laughing, eating, and taking pictures. Anyone who walked into the hall without knowing the story would think everything was perfect. But perfection had already started cracking. "Honestly, this is unbelievable," Rose muttered as she waved her wedding program in front of her face. "I have never attended a wedding this beautiful, only for things to turn strange so quickly." She leaned closer to Gift, lowering her voice but still speaking with strong emotion. "Did you see Amaka? She looks so happy. But I have always said it. People who post too much on social media usually have stories they don't talk about." Gift sighed and shook his head slowly. "Rose, not today. Let us not start judging people. Today is their wedding. Let us focus on celebrating them." But even as he spoke, he could feel it too. Something was not right. John stood near the entrance of the hall, adjusting his tie again and again. His suit was neat. His shoes were shining. His hair was well cut. To everyone watching, he looked like a proud groom. Inside, he felt like a man drowning. The noise in the hall felt far away. The laughter sounded strange. The music felt heavy in his ears. His mind kept going back to one thing, the message on his phone. Just the day before, John had stood beside Amaka, holding her hands, smiling proudly as they exchanged vows. He had believed with all his heart that he was starting a peaceful and happy life. He believed love was enough. Now, less than 24 hours later, that belief was shaking. "John!" his cousin Desmond called, snapping him out of his thoughts. "Are you okay? You've been standing here for long. You look lost." John forced a small smile. "I'm fine. Just tired." But he was not fine. Earlier that morning, when the celebrations from the wedding night had finally slowed down, John's phone vibrated beside him. He was half asleep when he picked it up. It was a message from Sola, his close friend from university. "Bro, you need to see this," the message read. John opened it casually, expecting a joke, a congratulatory message, or maybe another wedding picture. Instead, what appeared on his screen made his heart sink. Screenshots, old social media posts made from Amaka's old account, years before he met her. At first, he didn't understand what he was seeing. Then he read slowly. The words were bold, careless, public. One post talked openly about her sexual experiences. Another claimed she could not go a full week without sex. Some posts suggested she had been with many men in her area. John stared at the screen, his hands shaking. He read the posts again and again, hoping something would change. Hoping it was fake. Hoping it was edited. But the dates were there. The username was familiar. It was real. His chest tightened. His breathing became heavy. Sweat formed on his forehead, even though the room was cool. He dropped the phone on the bed and sat up. His heart was beating fast. Questions filled his mind. Why didn't she tell me? Why am I seeing this now? Why is everyone else seeing it too? By the time he dressed up and came to the reception hall, his mind was already restless. Gift noticed his sudden change and walked closer. "John, what's wrong? You're shaking." John didn't answer. He just handed him the phone. Gift scrolled slowly. His face changed from confusion to shock, then to concern. "This is serious," Gift said carefully. But John, these posts are old. They were made before you even met her. John shook his head. That's not the point. I didn't know. I married her believing I knew everything important. This changes how people see us. At that same moment, Amaka was inside the hall, laughing with her aunts and cousins. She was glowing. Her makeup was perfect. Her wedding ring shined as she moved her hands while talking. She felt happy, relieved, married. She noticed John standing alone and walked toward him. "My love," she said softly, touching his arm. "What's wrong? You look worried." John swallowed hard. "Amaka, I saw something online." Her smile faded slightly. "Online? What do you mean?" "I saw your old posts. From before we met." Her eyes widened. For a second she was silent. "John, those were years ago. I was younger. I didn't think they mattered anymore." "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. She stepped closer. "Because they don't define who I am now. I didn't think the past should control our future." Around them, the noise in the hall slowly reduced. People began to notice the tension. Conversations paused. Eyes turned. "This is not just about the past," John said. "It's about honesty. About trust." Maka's voice shook. "So my past is louder than my vows." Before he could answer, phones around the hall began to buzz. People whispered to each other. Some stared at their screens. Some stared at Amaka. "This is spreading fast," someone whispered. "Why is this happening today?" another asked. John felt exposed. He stepped outside to breathe. Amaka followed him immediately. "Please, let's talk privately. Don't do this here." John stopped and turned to face her. "This is already public. Everyone knows." Nearby, Desmond and Sola watched from a distance. "This situation is getting out of hand," Desmond said quietly. Inside the hall, family members started gathering. Uncle Emmanuel approached calmly. "John," he said gently, "marriage requires patience. Pride can destroy what patience can save." But the messages kept coming. Comments, questions. John felt ashamed. "I cannot start my marriage like this," he said slowly. "I need time." Amaka's tears flowed freely. "Please, let us talk. Don't let the world decide our marriage." John said nothing. He walked toward his car and sat inside, holding his head in his hands. Inside the hall, Amaka stood still, surrounded by people but feeling completely alone. 23 hours after exchanging vows, their marriage was already breaking. And this was only the beginning. The silence after John entered his car felt louder than the music still playing inside the wedding hall. Amaka stood where he left her, unable to move, unable to speak. People surrounded her, but she felt alone in a way she had never felt before in her life. 23 hours. That was all it took for her world to begin falling apart. Inside the car, John rested his head on the steering wheel. His hands were shaking. His phone buzzed again, then again. He did not check it. He already knew what was happening. Messages were spreading. Screenshots were moving faster than wildfire. People who did not know him personally were already forming opinions about his marriage. He closed his eyes tightly. "This cannot be my life," he whispered to himself. Outside, Amaka finally turned around and walked slowly back into the hall. Every step felt heavy. Her legs felt weak. Her heart felt like it was breaking into small pieces. As she entered, conversations stopped. Some people pretended not to stare. Others did not even try to hide it. She could feel their eyes on her face, her dress, her ring. She forced herself to walk with her head high. Rose noticed her immediately and rushed over. "Amaka, please sit down. You don't look well." Amaka sat, but her hands would not stop shaking. "Rose, why is this happening today?" she asked softly. Rose sighed. "Social media does not care about timing. Once something enters it, it has no mercy." Gift joined them, his face serious. "People are already sharing it everywhere. WhatsApp groups, Instagram pages, even Twitter. Amaka's chest tightened. But those things are old. They don't describe who I am now. Gift nodded. I know. But the internet does not think like that. Across the hall, Amaka's mother, Mrs. Okeke, noticed something was wrong. She had been smiling proudly all day, greeting guests and receiving congratulations. Now she saw her daughter sitting quietly, surrounded by worried faces. She walked over quickly. Amaka, what is going on? Amaka looked up at her mother and broke down completely. Mummy, John has left, she cried. Mrs. Okeke froze. Left where? The reception. He left the hall. Because of something online. Her mother's face changed immediately. What online? Before Amaka could answer, her phone vibrated. She looked down and saw the message. Someone had forwarded the screenshots directly to her. Her heart dropped. So this is what they are sharing, she whispered. Mrs. Okeke took the phone from her and scrolled. Her lips tightened. Her hands shook slightly. These are old posts, she said firmly. Very old. Amaka nodded. Yes, Mummy. Mrs. Okeke took a deep breath. We will handle this. John must not act out of anger. But anger was already spreading. Back in the car, John finally picked up his phone. He had over 50 missed calls. Messages filled his screen. Some were supportive. Bro, stay strong. Marriage is serious. You have the right to choose peace. Others were judgmental. You overreacted. It's her past. Forgive and move on. Then there were the messages that hurt the most. Is this the woman you married? You didn't know her at all. John dropped the phone again. His phone rang once more. This time he answered. John. Uncle Emmanuel's voice came through calmly. Where are you? I'm in my car. Come home. We need to talk as a family. John hesitated. Uncle, I don't know what to do. That is why we must talk, Uncle Emmanuel replied. John started the car. By the time he arrived at his family house, several relatives were already there. The living room was full. The atmosphere was heavy. John greeted quietly and sat down. His father looked at him with tired eyes. Son, explain to us what is happening. John took a deep breath and explained everything. The message, the screenshots, the humiliation. I did not know any of this, he said. Now everyone knows. His mother spoke next. Did she deny it? No. Did she say it was fake? No. She said it was her past, John replied. Silence followed. Then his aunt spoke. The past has a way of returning if it is not addressed. Another relative disagreed. But marriage is about forgiveness. John's father raised his hand. Enough. He turned to John. Marriage is not easy. But public shame can poison love. John lowered his head. Meanwhile, at Amaka's family house, a different conversation was happening. Mrs. Okeke sat with Amaka and her younger sister, Rose, and a few relatives. Everyone looked worried. This is not fair, Amaka's aunt said angrily. He is judging her based on things from years ago. But why didn't she tell him? Someone asked. Amaka wiped her tears. I was afraid. I thought he would not understand. Mrs. Okeke sighed deeply. Fear has a price. At that moment, Amaka's phone rang. It was John. She answered immediately. John, she said, her voice shaking. Amaka, he replied. I am at my parents' house. Her heart sank. What does that mean? It means the family is involved now. She closed her eyes. I don't want this to become bigger than us, she said. It already is, John replied softly. They were silent for a moment. I loved you enough to marry you, Amaka said. Please love me enough to forgive me. John swallowed hard. I want to. But I don't know if I can live with this. That night, the internet continued talking. Blogs picked up the story. Comments poured in. Some blamed Amaka. Some blamed John. Some blamed social media. By morning, everyone had an opinion. John and Amaka did not sleep. They were married but already living separate emotional lives. And by the end of that day, the decision that would truly shock everyone was already forming in John's heart. Morning came quietly, but peace did not come with it. John sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall. He had not slept at all. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the screenshots again. Every time he tried to rest, his phone vibrated with another notification. The story was no longer private. It was everywhere. Blogs had picked it up. Instagram pages were reposting the screenshots. YouTube commentators were already discussing it. Strangers were arguing about his marriage as if it belonged to them. John picked up his phone slowly. One headline read, "Man seeks divorce 23 hours after wedding over wife's old social media posts." He dropped the phone back on the bed. "So this is my life now," he whispered. In another house across town, Amaka sat on the floor of her room, her back against the bed. Her wedding dress hung on the wardrobe door like a silent reminder of what she was losing. She had also not slept. Her phone was filled with messages. Some were from friends who tried to comfort her. Others were from people she did not know at all. "You deserve it. Your past caught up with you. Why hide who you really are?" She deleted message after message, but the pain stayed. Her younger sister sat beside her quietly. "Sister, maybe he will calm down today." Amaka nodded slowly, but her eyes were empty. "I don't know anymore." By mid-morning, neighbors had started talking. Women gathered outside, pretending to discuss other things, but always returning to the same topic. "So that is the bride everyone was praising yesterday," one woman said. "Marriage didn't even last one day," another replied. Inside John's family house, relatives continued their discussions. "This matter has gone too far," one uncle said. "People will never forget." "But divorce after one day," another argued. "That will follow him forever." John listened but said nothing. His phone rang again. It was Amaka. He hesitated, then answered. "John," she said softly. "Please. Can we meet today?" There was silence on his end. "I just want us to talk. Face to face. No family. No phones." John closed his eyes. "Okay," he finally said. "We will meet." They agreed to meet at a quiet place later that afternoon. For the first time since everything started, Amaka felt a small sense of hope. Maybe this was the moment things would change. When they met, the air between them was heavy. Amaka looked tired. Her eyes were swollen from crying. John looked older, as if the last 24 hours had added years to his face. They sat across from each other. "I never wanted this," Amaka began. "I never planned for my past to destroy my future." John nodded slowly. "I believe you." Her heart skipped. "You do?" "Yes," he said. "I believe you are not that person anymore." Tears filled her eyes. "Then why is this happening?" "Because the world has already made up its mind," John replied. They talked for a long time. They talked about fear. They talked about honesty. They talked about shame. At one point, John leaned forward and said quietly, "If this was only between you and me, I would forgive you." Amaka's breath caught. "Then why don't you?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He looked down. His face changed. "What is it?" Amaka asked. John turned the phone toward her. A new post had just gone viral. Someone had dug up more old content. Videos, comments, conversations. And worse, people were tagging John directly. Laughing, mocking, judging. Amaka covered her mouth. "This is getting worse," she whispered. John leaned back slowly. "This is what I'm afraid of." That brief moment of hope faded. By evening, John returned home quiet and distant. His father watched him carefully. "Have you decided?" John did not answer immediately. "I tried," he said finally. "But I cannot fight this." Across town, Amaka sat with her mother, holding her hand tightly. "Marriage is not just love," her mother said gently. "It is also strength." Amaka cried softly. I am losing everything. Late that night, John sat alone again. He opened a blank document on his phone. His hands trembled as he typed. The decision he never thought he would make was now becoming real. And by morning everyone would know. Morning arrived slowly, like it was afraid of what the day would bring. John woke up before everyone else in the house. His eyes were heavy, his head was aching, and his heart felt like it had been squeezed all night. He sat up on his bed and stared at his phone. The blank document he opened the night before was still there. The words were few, but their meaning was heavy. I am writing to formally request a divorce. He closed the document immediately. This cannot be real, he whispered. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the street looked normal. People were already moving around. Children were getting ready for school. Life was going on as if nothing had happened. But his own life felt like it had stopped. In another house across town, Amaka was also awake. She had not slept properly. Her eyes were swollen, her head hurt, and her body felt weak. She sat on the edge of her bed, holding her phone tightly in her hands. She had read the comments again that morning. Some people called her names. Some said she deserved what she was getting. Some said John was weak. Some said marriage was a scam. She closed the app and threw the phone on the bed. I just want silence, she whispered. Her mother, Mrs. Okeke, knocked gently and entered the room. Did you sleep? She asked. Amaka shook her head slowly. Mrs. Okeke sat beside her. Today will be a long day. Amaka looked at her mother with tired eyes. Mummy, is marriage supposed to hurt like this? Her mother did not answer immediately. She sighed deeply. Marriage is beautiful, but people can make it painful. Back at John's family house, the living room slowly filled again. News had spread further overnight. Even distant relatives had heard. John's father sat quietly, his hands folded. This matter has entered another level, he said. People are watching us now. John sat opposite him. Daddy, tried. I almost forgave her. His mother looked up sharply. Almost. Yes, John replied. But it keeps getting worse. Every time I think it will calm down, something new appears online. His uncle leaned forward. Are you saying you want to end the marriage? John did not answer. The silence that followed felt heavy. John, his father said calmly, marriage is not only about feelings. It is also about reputation, peace of mind, and endurance. John nodded slowly. I know. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Desmond. Bro, lawyers are already talking about the case online. John closed his eyes. So it has reached that level, he murmured. At the same time, Amaka's family house was also filled with tension. Relatives had gathered, some offering comfort, others offering opinions. This man should calm down, one aunt said. He is allowing outsiders to destroy his home. But why didn't she tell him? Another replied. Amaka sat quietly, listening, saying nothing. Then her phone rang. It was John. Everyone became silent. She answered slowly. John. Amaka, he said. I need to tell you something. Her heart raced. What is it? I am meeting a lawyer today. The room went silent. Mrs. Okeke stood up sharply. Meeting a lawyer? For what? John's voice was calm but heavy. To understand my options. Amaka felt like the ground had opened under her. So, you have already decided? No, John replied. But I need clarity. After the call ended, Amaka broke down completely. This is really ending, she cried. Her mother held her tightly. Not yet. Not until everything is clear. Later that afternoon, John sat in a quiet office across from a lawyer. The lawyer was calm, professional, and careful with his words. You understand this marriage is less than 2 days old, the lawyer said. Yes, John replied. And you still want to proceed? John hesitated. I don't want to. But I don't see peace. The lawyer nodded. Public pressure can destroy private commitment. Those words stayed with John. As he left the office, his phone buzzed again. A new post was trending. Someone had written a long thread explaining the story, adding details that were not even true. People believed it anyway. John felt sick. At that same time, Amaka received a message that shook her. A woman she did not recognize had sent her a message. "I knew your husband before you married him. He is not perfect either." Attached were screenshots. Amaka stared at them in shock. They showed John's old messages to another woman years ago. Her heart started racing. "This changes everything," she whispered. She immediately called John. "John," she said urgently. "We need to talk now." They met again that evening. Amaka showed him the screenshots. John stared at them, his face pale. "I forgot about this," he said quietly. "So you also have a past," Amaka replied. "But I did not expose you to the world." John said nothing. For a long moment they sat in silence. "I was ready to forgive you," Amaka continued. "But now I see that we are both human." John's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, just a moment, it felt like everything might change. "I still love you," he said. "I still love you too," Amaka replied. They held hands. But then John's phone buzzed again. A blog had just posted a new article. This time they mentioned his name, his workplace, and even his parents. John slowly pulled his hand away. "This is what I am running from," he said. Amaka cried. "So the internet matters more than us." John stood up slowly. "I cannot sacrifice my peace." That night, John returned home and opened the document again. This time he did not close it. He finished typing. And before dawn, the decision was made. The morning came quietly, but it carried a finality that could not be ignored. John woke up before sunrise. The house was still asleep, but his mind was already awake, restless and heavy. The decision he made before dawn sat firmly in his chest. There was no excitement, no relief, no anger anymore. Just a deep, uncomfortable calm. He sat on the edge of his bed and looked at his phone. The document was still there. Complete. Ready. He read it one last time, not to change anything, but to prepare himself for what would follow. "This is really happening," he whispered. In another house across town, Amaka woke up suddenly from her sleep. Her heart was racing, as if it sensed what was coming. She sat up and pressed her hand against her chest. "I feel strange," she murmured. Her mother noticed immediately. "What is it?" "I don't know," Amaka replied. "It feels like something is about to end." Her mother said nothing. She only watched her daughter closely. By mid-morning the news broke. A reliable blog posted an update. Sources confirm that divorce papers have been filed in the marriage that lasted less than 24 hours. Within minutes it was everywhere. Phones buzzed. Notifications flooded in. Voice notes were sent. Comments exploded. John's name trended again. Amaka saw it on her phone and froze. "So, it is done," she said softly. Her mother took the phone from her hands and sighed deeply. "My daughter, prepare your heart." John arrived at the lawyer's office shortly after. He signed the papers slowly. Each signature felt like a weight dropping on his chest. "Are you certain?" the lawyer asked one last time. John paused. Images flashed through his mind. The wedding day, Amaka's smile, their vows, then the screenshots, comments, pressure. "Yes," he said quietly. "I am certain." Pen moved. And just like that, the marriage ended. No celebration. No closure. Just silence. When Amaka was informed officially, she did not scream. She did not cry immediately. She sat very still. Her younger sister spoke first. "Sister, are you okay?" Amaka nodded slowly. "I think so." But she was not. Later that day, Amaka and John met one final time, not to reconcile, but to face the truth. They sat across from each other again, but this time there was nothing left to save. "I never imagined this would be how our story ends." Amaka said. Neither did I, John replied. There was no anger in his voice, only sadness. I want you to know something, Amaka continued. I never cheated on you. I never disrespected our marriage. I know, John said. And that makes this harder. She nodded. I wish the world did not see me before you truly knew me. John looked down. I wish I was stronger. Those words hung heavily in the air. So what happens now? Amaka asked. We move on, John replied. Even though it hurts. She laughed bitterly. Move on from what? A marriage that never even started. John had no answer. They stood up. No hug. No goodbye kiss. Just two people walking away from what could have been. As the days passed, the internet moved on. Another story replaced theirs. But the pain did not move on so easily. John returned to work, but things were different. People looked at him differently. Some pitied him. Some judged him. At home, his mother sometimes stared at him quietly. Are you at peace? She asked one night. John did not answer. Amaka withdrew from the world. She stopped posting online. She avoided gatherings. She avoided mirrors. One evening she sat with her mother and said, I lost a marriage, but I also lost myself. Her mother held her hand. You will find yourself again. Months later, the noise completely died down. But the lesson remained. Social media never forgets. The internet does not forgive easily. And marriage, once exposed to the crowd, becomes fragile. Sometimes love is not enough. Sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. And sometimes, what ends a marriage is not what happened before, but what the world refuses to let go.